Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Enter the Abyss while we crack open an alcoholic beverage. Am I right, Cleve?
Yeah, it's a good night. What are you drinking, Britton?
I am having a beer from 450 North called Stay Out of the Stout Cellar. It's a rye pastry stout with dark chocolate, peanut butter, vanilla, and peanut butter cups. So we'll see how it goes.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, I'll be drinking a Pabst Blue Ribbon. Pretty neat.
Was that your first choice? I'm curious.
No, it wasn't, because you were there when I was upset. I bought a Foster's from the store. I bought a pack of PBR and a single can of Foster's. But I didn't realize that there was a big zero on the Foster's. And apparently I accidentally bought a non-alcoholic beer, which I don't understand the point of. I mean, beer tastes great and all, but I like the alcohol. I was going to be making like a walkout balcony joke, but no. I had to buy a non-alcoholic beer.
Nice. Well, the point of non-alcoholic beer is that those who don't want alcohol can enjoy a beer, Cleet. It's a pretty good point, but,
Nope. The Aussies just hit me down under.
This beer tastes like asshole, so that's fun.
Oh.
I'm gonna be drinking this one quick and moving on to my next one because it's a 2-beer kind of night for me.
Yeah, Britton's an expert at that, so I trust him.
Hell yeah. I mean, the can looks cool. I mean, I always go for cans of beer, and it's got like a zombie hand reaching out from the cellar.
That was from Wendover, right? All the beers we got there were kind of strange when we took them home.
They were.
Still a good $100 run. If you want to contribute to the beer run, if you want to contribute to the beer fund, go ahead and send it to our one-time donation link.
Posted below. And I think we're going to go local this time. We'll go somewhere that's not Wendover because I think they fucked us over.
Yeah, a little bit. All right. Well, tonight we will be going over stories from the internet with the theme of people finding disturbing things in the woods.
Oh.
Well, Britton, ladies first. Go ahead, man.
Oh, hell yeah. A gentleman and a scholar. All right, so the first story on tap tonight is called The Masked Stalker in the Carolina Woods. I was camping with my young cousin in the dense woods behind my South Carolina home. We spent the day building a little shelter out of fallen branches and were settling in for the evening. As dusk fell, we kept hearing odd noises echoing through the trees. A thunk, like an axe hitting wood, and then a splash of water, over and over. We tried to brush it off since a creek was nearby and we'd been in these woods countless times. But just as darkness set in, I heard a noise that made my blood run cold. A person's voice in the distance, calling out with a peculiar, wordless cooing sound. The kind of sound you'd use to beckon a dog.
Better than like someone unzipping their pants or something out of your tent. That was not the tent.
That was not the tent opening if someone's flipping open their pants. I don't know why your mind went to that first, Cleet. I'm a little concerned. My question is, what have you seen in the woods, man?
It was a stalker, they're probably weird. And, so just peed on your tent, man.
It's
insulting.
The Phantom Zipper. Immediately, I signaled my cousin to be quiet. We both knew that nobody else should be out here. My first thought, of course, was to protect him. As calmly as possible, I whispered that we needed to pack up now. We silently gathered our things, and I let him walk ahead of me on the trail out. I didn't want whatever was out there to come between me and him. As we started fast walking toward home, I kept glancing over my shoulder. Roughly 20 feet behind us, just beyond the glow of my flashlight, I caught a glimpse of a figure slipping behind a tree. My heart nearly stopped, and in a brief flash of moonlight, I saw it was a man wearing a featureless white mask and dark clothing, watching us. I didn't tell my cousin. I didn't want to panic him, but I picked up our pace to a near jog. For the longest 30 minutes of my life, we hiked toward the tree line, our house finally coming into sight through the last thinning of the trees. I glanced to the side and saw the masked man again, now paralleling us, darting between the trees. He was undoubtedly following us and getting closer. That was enough to throw aside all pretense of calm, and I grabbed my cousin's hand. We ran full tilt, crashing through brush until we burst out the woods into my backyard. We sprinted onto the porch and straight into my house, locking every door and window behind us. Only then did I tell my cousin what I'd seen. To my horror, he told me he had also spotted the same masked figure stalking us from tree to tree on the way out. We both realized how narrowly we may have escaped something truly terrible. I don't know who that was or what their intentions were, but the experience left me shaken to my core. We were only 20 feet away from potential death in those woods, and I will never camp out there again. Except the problem is, you let them right to your house.
Yeah, right. And I'm also confused about the wordless cooing sound. Like, what would that be? A wordless cooing sound to try to beckon a dog? I understand a whistle. I understand like a, oh, come here. But that's words. I don't understand what a wordless coo is. I just...
That's an owl.
I mean, yeah. I don't... If anyone knows in the comments like what that is, let us know. Just try to type it out phonetically.
Type out the wordless cooing. Type something out without using words, please.
Well, no, phonetically try to spell out the noise. Like if you were going to like spell out my, he, my, ha,
Yeah,
it's not a word, but you could type it out. Anyway,
I'm genuinely curious what people can type out a wordless cooing. Let's see what you got.
It's going to be a lot of O's in the chat.
Ooh.
Reminds me of the guy who put the ad for the best Chewbacca impersonation, gets $100. It was his ex-girlfriend's number. Oh man,
that's so
all right,
cruel.
Let's jump into our next story. It's called The Midnight Kayaker. One summer night, I was leading a group of 10-year-old boys on an overnight camping trip at the lake of Northern Ontario. I was a camp counselor, and another counselor, my friend Mike, was with me. We had our cluster of tents set up a short walk from the rocky shore, and after a day of swimming and campfire stories, I had sent the kids to bed at around 9:30 p.m. The forest was pitch black beyond the glow of our dying fire. Mike and I sat by the water, quietly chatting and sharing a cigarette, when we noticed a small light out on the lake, slowly approaching our campsite. It was unusual. This was a remote lake, and it was late for any boaters. As the light drew nearer, we realized it was a single canoe or kayak, and someone was paddling it towards us. I stood up, preparing to tell the late-night visitor that our camp was occupied and they need to find another spot. But as the kayak slid into view, the words died in my throat. The person in the boat was an old woman, perhaps in her 60s or more, with wild, wispy gray hair down to her shoulders, so long it trailed into the water. Her skin appeared weathered and leathery, and when she looked at me, her eyes seemed clouded and lifeless. She paddled up just a few yards off our shore and fixed me with a hollow stare. In a raspy voice, she asked, "Are your children safe in bed?" Gesturing vaguely toward our tents and the trees. I was stunned. It's part of our training as counselors to handle strangers, but this was beyond normal. Fighting the urge to gag, the woman's teeth were missing in place, giving her a ghoulish look. I managed to shout back that the kids were fine and that she needed to leave our campsite immediately. She replied in a single song tone. "That's good." Now, how do you do a sing-song tone? Sing-song tone. "That's good."
That's good.
Hey, that's good. That's good, just as expected for this time. Then, without another word, she slowly turned her kayak and paddled off into the darkness. Mike and I just looked at each other, speechless and unnerved. The whole encounter felt like a nightmare. Who on earth was that old lady, alone on the lake at this hour, asking about her kids? We were on high alert. We double-checked that all the boys were still sound asleep in their tents, then stoked the fire and sat on guard with our hunting knives in hand. Maybe 30 minutes passed with no sign of her. We began to breathe easier until my phone buzzed. It was a text from a fellow counselor, Ashley, who was leading a different group across the lake that night. "Haha, very funny," she wrote. "Stop messing with us. The kids are really creeped out." My blood ran cold. Clearly, Ashley thought the weird woman was some prank of ours. I texted back, "Not a prank. We saw her too," and immediately called her. Ashley was shaken. One of her campers had unzipped his tent to go pee and had screamed when he saw a woman with long gray hair standing at the forest edge, arms outstretched toward their tents. The woman then silently drifted back into the trees when the kids shouted. Ashley had assumed it was me trying to scare them with a ghost story figure, but I wasn't. We spent the rest of the night on the phone, coordinating a watch. I kept my fire going and eyes trained on the tree line, half expecting the skeletal-looking lady to emerge again. Thankfully, she didn't. By the morning, we had just packed up and got the kids out of there as soon as possible. The camp directors and local rangers were notified, but nobody had an explanation. To this day, I have no idea who that woman was. A mentally ill drifter living off the lake, perhaps? But the image of her face and that haunting question, "Are all your children safe?" still gives me the chills. It's become my go-to campfire tale, though I wish I'd never lived through it.
Damn.
Creepy old lady, man.
Are your children safe?
Before I jump into the news story, I think I've had a first in my entire life. I can't finish that beer, man. It is bad. It is repulsive. Like, I tried. The last sip literally almost made me puke in my mouth. So,
Man, come on. I remember the last episode you made fun of me because I grimaced when I drank my spicy beer thing.
It was the Spotted Owl.
I drink it. That's all I'm gonna say. I hated that beer.
I'm like 3/4. I can't. I'm gonna puke. So I'm gonna move on to my next beer. Love that sound. So this one is from Shades Brewing Company, and you ready, Cleet? It's called "Sounds Gay, I'm In." Legit, and it's a sour ale brewed with prickly pear flavoring. So we'll see how that goes. But I also forgot to tell you, I did watch a scary movie called Heretic. It was actually really fucking good, man. Have you heard it? It's got Hugh Grant, and it's about the where he kidnaps 2 female missionaries.
You know, my wife watched it, and I don't know. I didn't want to watch it, so I didn't watch.
Trust me, I know you don't trust my taste in movies. You would like it. You would like it. Maybe. It's not like horror. It's not like a scary movie, right? It's like intense, but it does some shit, man. It's really good. I think you would enjoy it. Do you? You don't have to keep this in. Do you like the Mormon Church, Cleet?
I don't really care about them, but just for the record, Britton, so we can get this on tape again. The Evil Dead remake. You consider that a good horror movie, right?
I just told you this is not a horror film, Cleet. I just fucking told you.
I'm just asking you. Just asking you a question, Brett. It's not related.
Cleet, I did like The Evil Dead. Is it my favorite movie? No. Is it better than the original? No. I can still enjoy it. I think you'd like Heretic. Watch it or not. It's so fucking good. I don't care what you do with your life. I'm just telling you, it's really good, Cleet. You fucking moron. This is going to be something that's just, I'm going to die on this hill, Cleet. Like, Evil Dead was enjoyable. It
one of the
best movie.
One of the worst installments of the franchise. And you're like, yeah, that's acceptable. All right, go ahead.
Worst podcasters out there. All right. So anyway, check it out. It's good. Okay. I like the title of this story. So story number 3, Clown in the Woods. They found you in the woods, Cleet. They found you.
Yep. Court order.
All right. Court order. I'm a court-ordered clown.
In the woods.
In the woods. In the UK. All right. I'm from the United Kingdom, and this happened back in 2016 at the height of that bizarre killer clown craze. I was a teenager then, heading to a friend's outdoor get-together that was being held in a wooded area outside of town. To get there, I had to follow a footpath through a patch of forest. It was about 10 p.m., and the woods were almost pitch black, with just faint moonlight filtering through. Using my phone's flashlight to see the trail, I ventured in alone. The night was silent except for the crunch of my footsteps on the leaves below. Roughly halfway through the woods, the trail opened into an area of scattered trees and no clear path, the shortcut that I needed to take. As I cautiously picked my way through, I suddenly heard a rustling to my left. I turned my phone toward the noise and I froze. Sitting on a fallen log about 20 feet off the path was a large figure. I thought it was a shadow at first, but then I saw the light catch a face. Someone was there, just sitting in the dark, watching me. I lifted my phone's beam higher and my stomach flipped. The person was dressed as a clown, and not like a goofy birthday clown, but a dirty, scuffed costume with a twisted, painted grin on a pale face. He had to be over 6 feet tall, bald, with a big fake smile drawn on, and he was staring right at me, completely still, with this insane grin. I wonder why we didn't see anybody like that at the clown motel. We were literally where like clowns are supposed to live.
Because we were supposed to be the clowns.
That's a twist. Come to the clown motel because you're the clown. I did what any sane person would do. I shot him in the fucking face.
They don't get guns there, man.
Yeah, that's true. I started power walking away while dialing any friend's number that I could think of. Hands shaking, I called out, "Hey, I'm almost there. Yeah, I see you guys," pretending that I was meeting somebody immediately. I was hoping to deter this clown from trying anything. That's when I heard the crunch of leaves and breaking sticks behind me. I glanced back and saw the clown had stood up. Worse, he was now walking fast, straight toward me. Within seconds, it turned into a full-on chase. He was running, and so was I. Dude, I would shit my pants. Like, not even kidding, I would shit my pants. I sprint, it's like big clown shoes, just,
Jesus, man.
I'm gonna get you. Here I come. Fucking creepy, man. I sprinted for my life through the trees, adrenaline kicking in. In the darkness, I nearly lost the main trail, and in a panic, I veered toward the edge of the woods where I knew there was a boundary fenced by a road. My heart was hammering as I heard heavy footsteps gaining on me. I reached the old barbed wire fence that marked the forest boundary. With no time to think, I practically threw myself over it. The rusty barbs scraped deep into my hands and legs as I scrambled over, but I didn't feel the pain at that moment. I dropped onto the other side, onto an embankment by the road. Immediately, I spun around. The flashlight on my phone caught the clown standing just inside the tree line, right behind the fence. He had stopped running. He just stood there in the darkness, one hand on a tree trunk, smiling at me from behind the barbed wire as I bled and panted on the roadside. He didn't say a single word. He didn't need to. The image was terrifying enough. I didn't take my eyes off him as I backed away down the road. Then I turned and ran until I reached the house party where there were lights and people. I was shaking uncontrollably. My friends helped bandage my cuts, and for the rest of the night I was jumpy, constantly checking the dark edges of the yard. The killer clown sightings were all over the news that month, but experiencing it firsthand was on another level. To this day, I have no idea if that guy wanted to actually hurt me or just get a sick thrill from scaring strangers. All I know is that encountering that smiling clown alone in the woods, being chased and seeing him standing there watching me from the trees was the most terrifying experience of my life. Killer clown in the woods, let's not meet again.
I like to think when he was saying he was being jumpy, like, he's like, yeah, I'm okay, don't worry. He, like, trips over a trike. He's like, oh my God. Like, someone pulls up to the party in a smart car. He's like, oh, fuck.
Someone has, like, a red nose. He's like, what the fuck?
All right, this story is called The Severed Kangaroo Head.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, in Australia. I often enjoy solo camping. I'm kidding. I often enjoy. I try to do Australia.
I'm in the outback, solo
I'm in the
camping.
outback. It's not a knife. This is a knife.
That's a knife.
I often enjoy solo camping, and as an experienced outdoorsman in Australia, I usually don't scare easily. But one night in the outback, it gave me a disturbing memory I'll never forget. I had hiked out to a secluded bit of bushland in Western Australia, a place with no one around for miles. The area was dry, covered with eucalyptus trees and brush, with plenty of twigs and leaf litter on the ground. Any movement by a large animal or person would normally be easy to hear. By nightfall, I was tucked in my small tent with my campfire dying outside. The night was silent and moonless. Sometime in the middle of the night, I was jarred awake by a strange plopping noise very close by. Jesus.
Someone's taking a shit.
It wasn't a possum or kangaroo rustling. You can hear those easily on the dry leaves. It sounded like something heavy dropping onto the ground. I fumbled for my flashlight. Heart started to pound. I listened intently for any footsteps or movement, but there was nothing. Just an eerie silence among the gum trees. Eventually convincing myself it might have been a dead branch falling, I managed to drift back to an uneasy sleep. When dawn broke, I emerged from the tent to a gruesome sight. Lying just a couple of feet from my tent flap was a decapitated kangaroo's head. What?
No, thanks. Time to go home.
I stared at it for a long moment, not truly believing it was real. Flies were already starting to buzz around it in the morning light. The kangaroo's head definitely hadn't been there when I set up camp the evening before.
Oh, you think? You think? Yeah, we just built our tent around the kangaroo head.
I swear, it wasn't there before.
What the fuck is this thing doing here?
Did somebody say that to him? It was probably there when you pitched your tent.
Ha! Why the fuck would you build your camp there?
That's so fun.
You're supposed to go around the head.
Where's its down under parts? They're like neck down.
Where's his body?
All right, I'm gonna go back. Story, Brit.
Okay, go for it, Cleet.
Someone or something had silently placed it there while I slept. The plop I heard during the night now made sense, and it made my skin crawl. It was as if something had dropped this bloody severed head straight out of the sky, right next to my tent. I looked around for any other signs of disturbance. There were no tracks, no blood trail, no footprints of any kind around my campsite. The rest of the kangaroo's body was nowhere to be found. The precision of the whole thing was unsettling. The head appeared to have been cleanly cut off, not torn by an animal. I can't describe the feeling of dread that washed over me. It's the realization that while I was sleeping in the open, something or someone was standing over me in the dark, leaving a ghastly token without making a sound. I've encountered lots of wildlife, and occasionally I'll find an animal remains in the bush, but this was on another level of bizarre and disturbing. There was no good rational explanation. I immediately doused my campfire and packed up. As the morning sun rose, I hiked out of there faster than I think I've ever hiked in my life. To this day, I don't know if it was a sick prank by some deranged individual living out there or something more ominous. Out in the Australian wilderness, you expect to find dangerous animals. I never expected to wake up to evidence of human darkness. The image of the kangaroo's head next to my tent still haunts me, and it's safe to say I won't be camping in that area ever again. Jeez.
Why not? It's just a kangaroo head.
What is this, like, what's that show with the mafia? And there's like a horse head they put in the bed? Like, it's just similar to that story.
The Sopranos?
Yeah, The Sopranos. Don't they do that in The Sopranos?
I've never watched it. Yeah. I know there's some crazy shit in Australia, but kangaroo heads falling from the sky, I think that's a first for me.
It definitely didn't pop there.
This is called bone wind chimes in Oregon. A few years ago, my sister-in-law and I decided to hike a section of the North Umpqua Trail in rural Oregon. It was a beautiful weekday in autumn, and we hadn't seen another hiker for miles. The trail snaked along a hillside with the North Umpqua River audible far below. In the late afternoon, we found a particularly scenic overlook where the trees thinned just enough to give us a view of the river and the forest valley. We stopped there to catch our breath and sip some water. But almost immediately I was overcome by a wave of discomfort, a sudden, inexplicable feeling that we were being watched. As my sister-in-law admired the view, I glanced behind us, scanning the dense woods that we had just emerged from. At first I saw nothing out of the ordinary, then something caught my eye. About 15 feet off the trail, hanging from the low branches of an old oak tree, were several strings of bones. Yes, actual bones, dozens of them of varying sizes, dangling and clacking gently in the breeze, almost like grotesque wind chimes. They were arranged with twine, some bleached white, others still with bits of sinew or fur. My heart lurched. I quietly got my sister-in-law's attention and I pointed. Her face went pale. This was not an old hunter's field dressing or a natural find. It looked deliberately strung up. We exchanged a look of alarm. Out of the silence, we then heard crunching leaves and the snap of a twig from further up the slope. The unmistakable sound of footsteps reached us, and they were not from any animal. Someone on two legs was moving in the woods just above our position, and as we strained to listen, it became clear they were moving toward us, step by deliberate step. I've never felt panic like that in my entire adult life. We were two women alone, unarmed, and dusk was approaching. I leaned in and whispered, "On the count of 3, we walk fast back the way we came." She barely nodded, eyes wide. I didn't even say 3, we just turned and power walked down the trail. Within seconds, that walk turned into an all-out run because whoever was in the woods behind us had started running too. We could hear branches snapping and leaves rustling frantically as an unseen pursuer barreled downhill in our direction. We ran like our lives depended on it, tearing down the trail with adrenaline lending us speed we never knew we had. I could hear the person crashing through the underbrush, keeping pace a bit uphill from us. We didn't stop, didn't dare look back. After what felt like an eternity, we finally burst out onto a more open section of trail near a trailhead parking area where our car was. Only then did the noises fall away and whoever was chasing us melted back into the woods. We jumped into our car, shaking and out of breath, and sped off. Once we reached cell service, we called the local sheriff's office to report what had happened. I felt a bit foolish trying to explain the bones hanging in the trees and the fact that we never actually saw the person chasing us. To their credit, the authorities took it seriously and sent a deputy to meet us and later investigate that section of the trail. A few days later, I got a follow-up visit from the county sheriff himself, a grizzled man who calmly told me, "You two definitely weren't imagining things. Someone really did chase you. We found evidence up there." I pressed him for details. Who was it? What did they find? He looked at me grimly and said, "I'm not gonna tell you what we found or who it was, because if I do, you will never hike anywhere again. But just know it's been handled. It won't happen up there again."
Another case of the meat chimes.
Meaty chimes. Blood whistle. That statement chilled me more than anything. The sheriff essentially confirmed that whatever, or whoever, we encountered was so disturbing that he thought it best we not know. The possibilities of what he meant still haunt me. Did they catch some twisted individual living out there? Did we stumble across a serial killer's dumping ground or some occult setup? I'll never be sure. All I know is that I have not gone back to those woods, and I likely never will. The memory of those boned wind chimes swaying in the trees and the sound of unseen footsteps racing toward us is enough to keep me strictly to well-populated trails from now on.
Damn.
Well, holy shit.
All right, this one is called The Midnight Knock on the Window. A few summers ago, I took a multi-day solo off-road trip, driving my SUV deep into the wilderness where no cell signal or civilization could reach me. I wanted some peace and quiet in nature, so I found an isolated spot in the woods, way off any main road. After a tranquil evening of making camp, and even treating myself to a bit of wine under the stars, I climbed into the back of my SUV to sleep. The night was still and silent, so quiet, in fact, that the absence of sound itself was eerie. In the middle of nowhere like that, you become absolutely aware of every little noise. Sometime after midnight, I was jolted awake by a distant sound echoing through the trees. It wasn't a scream, and it wasn't singing. It sounded like chanting. Multiple voices in unison, carrying through the forest on the still air. It was hard to tell how far away they were, but it definitely sounded like some kind of ritual chanting or droning song. I lay there in the dark, heart pounding, telling myself I had to be imagining it or that it was the wind. But the longer I listened, the more it truly sounded like voices. After maybe a minute, the chanting faded or stopped. Silence again. I was thoroughly spooked. I mean, who would be out here, miles from anything, chanting in the middle of the night? I was so unnerved, I kept my pocket knife clutched in my hand, just in case. Eventually, after an hour of no other sounds, I managed to fall back into a fitful sleep. What happened next is something I struggle to convince people of, because it feels like a scene from a horror movie. Sometime in the pre-dawn hours, I was awakened again, this time by a knocking sound. Groggy and confused, I heard a firm tap, tap, tap on the window of my SUV. I froze. My mind raced. Perhaps a bird or an animal had bumped the glass. Taking a deep breath, I slowly sat up and peered out the foggy rear window. Pressed against the glass was a pale outline of a face looking in at me. I honestly don't know who was more terrified in that instant, me or the stranger I suddenly screamed at. I let out an instinctive, guttural yell in sheer panic. Scrambling upright, the face at the window instantly disappeared. I heard rapid footsteps crunch away into the darkness. Shaking, I fumbled for my keys and hit the unlock button to turn on the exterior floodlights of my SUV, an off-road rig with aftermarket lights. In the harsh beams, I caught a glimpse of a figure, maybe 30 feet away now, sprinting into the cover of the trees. They had been watching me sleep, and I had no idea for how long. Within seconds, the person melted into the darkness of the woods, and all I could hear was my own breathing. I was trembling from head to toe. It was 4 a.m., deep in the wilderness, and I was completely alone, or at least I had thought I was. I did not go back to sleep. I sat in the driver's seat with the engine on, doors locked and headlights cutting into the forest until dawn. As soon as there was a hint of light, I peeled out of there, driving over ruts and brush with my heart still pounding. In the daylight, I tried to make sense of it. I saw no other vehicle or camp nearby. If someone had driven up, I would have heard an engine on the quiet off-road trail. It was as if that person had appeared out of nowhere on foot. The fact that they knocked on my window in the dead of night, rather than announcing themselves, makes it clear their intentions were not good. It still unsettles me deeply. Perhaps they were the source of the chanting I heard. Maybe I had stumbled somewhat near a place I wasn't supposed to be, and they followed me? I'll never know. The memory of seeing a stranger's face pressed against the glass when I was utterly isolated is something that still gives me nightmares. I have never gone that deep into the wilderness alone again. I used to love the solitude, but now I keep imagining that somewhere out there, in the dark silence, someone might be watching. Waking up to an unknown person in your window in the middle of nowhere is a special kind of terror I wouldn't wish on anyone.
You know, I think it's weird because I've been sneaking up to your house and putting my face against your bedroom window for years.
Yeah.
You never seem
it.
to notice.
Yeah, Britton, your windows are foggy. If you go open up the drapes, you'll see a big old outline of an ass that was pressed against the window.
Ah, I wondered what that was. I just can't get rid of it.
Could you imagine that? What the fuck? Who did that? What the fuck? Did someone mushroom stamp? Did someone mushroom stamp my window?
Who hit my window with their penis? I would be so mad. I would be so mad. It's unmistakably horrible. It's so bad.
Did someone just push a mushroom? Okay, we're done. I'm done.
Yeah, you're done. All right, folks, it's time for the final story of the evening, and this one is called The Hidden Fence in the New Zealand Bush. The Hidden Fence in the New Zealand Bush. There's always a hidden fence in the bush.
Amen.
Back in the 1980s, a family friend of mine worked as a possum trapper in the remote backcountry of New Zealand. He was an older, tough-as-nails outdoorsman, used to spending days or weeks camping alone in the bush. He told me about one disturbing encounter that convinced him some places are better left unexplored. One summer, he was running trap lines in a particularly isolated mountain forest on the South Island. This area was hours from the nearest town, dense with trees and devoid of any tracks or huts. While hiking through thick brush in a valley, he noticed something that shouldn't have been there: a straight line cut through the foliage. As he pushed aside the greenery, he came face to face with a tall chain-link fence topped with barbed wire, stretching on through the woods. It was a bizarre sight. Here he was, miles deep in wild terrain where no farm or facility should exist, yet this heavy-duty fence had been erected as if to keep people out, or something in. There were no markings or signs, just a locked gate with a heavy chain and barbed wire coils along the top. The area beyond the fence was thick forest as well, but he couldn't see much from where he stood. Immediately, his bush instincts... What the fuck? My bush instincts are going off, man. I gotta tell you. What the fuck?
Hey, man. Some people got bush instincts, man. It's just a different culture. You're right.
My bush sense is going off, man. Something's happening.
Something's really hairy.
Oh my God. And that's what it says. Like, I wasn't even a typo. Okay. I don't know if I can say it. Immediately, his bush instincts told him something was off. Dude, it's so stupid. Okay. At that time in New Zealand, remote areas were sometimes used by illegal drug owners, like hidden marijuana plantations, and those people guarded their sites fiercely. He had stumbled on what might be someone's secret operation. Yeah, you don't want to be there, man.
And don't be in somebody else's bush.
My bush sensors are going off, and it's a legal bush here. As this dawned on him, he suddenly became aware of how quiet the forest was, and how exposed he had been, standing in front of this mystery fence. A chill ran down his spine. He didn't try to open the gate or investigate further. Instead, he slowly backed away the way that he'd come, careful not to make noise. He felt as though unseen eyes might be watching him from the bushes. It's all the cameras they have set up. Every twig snap under his boots sounded like an alarm in that silence. He retreated until he was out of sight, then took a long detour to put distance between himself and that location. Only when he was back at his camp that night did he fully process how dangerous that discovery could have been. If whoever built that fence had caught him snooping, who knows what might have happened. He later reported it anonymously to the authorities, suspecting a drug compound, but never heard what came of it. It's because they're in on it. They're like, yeah, we'll investigate it. He didn't particularly want to know. For the rest of that season, he avoided that entire valley. The thought of stumbling onto a secret fenced-in area in the middle of nowhere, likely protected by people with guns, really shook this otherwise fearless outdoorsman. He told me it was the only time he ever felt truly unsafe in the New Zealand wilderness. Sometimes the scariest things in the woods aren't ghosts or wild animals, but the hidden human activities that you were never meant to find.
Some creepy bushcraft.
All right. I gotta tell you, man, my bush senses are going fucking crazy. My bush senses are firing off right now.
What a great story to end on, you know?
Yeah, get those bush senses. But folks, that is going to wrap us up for this evening. Thank you as always for joining us, and a huge shout out to our paid supporters of the show: Soylent, Cleat Feet, Curtis and Lara, Mothman, Lara, Conklin family, and Lou. Your paid support of the show is tremendously helpful, and if you yourself would like to join these amazing people, there are several tiers to choose from. We're very appreciative of any support that we can get, as well as, like Cleat mentioned earlier, the one-time beer donation to the show. We will go ahead and pick up some beers that we want to drink on the air while telling spooky stories.
If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps us get us out there. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.